I need you to think about something.
What?
Imagine your company has a policy written nowhere, spoken to no one but in practice. Black employees are passed over for promotion at 3 times the rate of white employees.
What?
No one uses a slur. No one sends a racist email. Everything looks clean on paper. Is that discrimination? Because you can't prove it. But for over 50 years.
We have a problem.
For over 50 years, American law said yes. That is what's called disparate impact. And it was the backbone of the civil rights enforcement in this country. Now, on April 23rd of this year, President Trump signed an executive order to end it. All of it, in housing and employment, in education and lending, even in healthcare.
Hypocrisy, my friend.
And I really want you guys to hear this. They called it restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy.
A 747 Air Force One in the lobby, which is going to be a trick.
And the Supreme Court tomorrow is going to hear arguments about your executive order trying to get rid of birthright citizenship.
And I'm going.
You're going to go to the Supreme Court
I think
tomorrow?
so. I do believe
And just sit there and listen.
because I have listened to this argument for so long, and this is not about Chinese billionaires or billionaires from other countries who all of a sudden have 75 children or 59 children in one case or 10 children becoming American citizens. This was about slaves. And if you take a look, slaves, we're talking about slaves from the Civil War. And if you take a look at when it was filed, all of this legislation, all of this, everything having to do with birthright citizenship, it was at the end of the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves and the protection of the babies of slaves. It didn't have to do with the protection of multi-millionaires and billionaires wanting to have their children get an American citizenship. It is the craziest thing I've ever seen. It's been so badly handled by legal people over the years. If you look at the original birthright citizenship papers, they all happened right after the Civil War. The reason was it had to do with the babies of slaves.
Before we get into what we just destroyed, let me make sure everyone understands what disparate impact actually is, because this is where people's eyes glaze over, and the glazing is exactly what they're counting on. Disparate impact is legal doctrine born from a 1971 Supreme Court case, Griggs versus Duke Power Company. And the court ruled that if a policy disproportionately harms a protected class, even without any discriminatory intent, it can still be illegal discrimination. And I really want you guys to think about this, because what that means in practice, if a bank refuses to give mortgages in certain zip codes, they'll never say no, Black people were allowed. But the zip codes they are redlining happen to be 90% Black. That is disparate impact, okay? A company requires a college degree for a warehouse job. College access has been systematically unequal for generations.
It is what it is.
Black applicants are screened at a higher rate. That is disparate impact. A school district disciplines Black students at 5 times the rate of white students for the same infractions. No written policy says be harder on Black kids, but the data is right there. That is disparate impact. So for 50 years, civil rights attorneys, the Department of Justice, if that's still around, the EEOC and the Hood could use this doctrine to challenge these practices, even when there was no smoking gun proof of individual racist intent. That protection is now gone. Let me read you the exact language of this executive order. And while I'm looking at this, ladies and gentlemen, I want you to look at it as well, okay? So again, because it should have been front page news, and it wasn't, because a lot of things have been hidden in this administration, even though transparency, that's not the case. But if you see here, ladies and gentlemen, restoring equality of opportunity and meritocracy. Meritocracy. When in this nation has anyone ever gave anything when it came to meritocracy? Most things that people have been passed down to generation has been nepotism, not meritocracy, but I digress. But April 23rd, declared that the official policy of the United States government, and I'm quoting directly here, to eliminate the use of disparate impact liability in all contexts to the maximum degree possible. All contexts, maximum degree possible. Now, the order then instructs the Attorney General and the chair of the EEOC to assess all pending investigation, civil suits, and enforcement positions that rely on disparate impact theory. And again, here's a direct quote: take appropriate action consistent with the policy of this order. And the translation: drop those cases, stop those investigations, abandon those protections. And they already had the EEOC, which is the Equal Employment Opportunity Commission, the federal agency whose entire job is protecting workers from discrimination, has already directed its staff to dismiss all complaints based on disparate impact theories. Every single one. 50 years of precedent, hundreds of active investigations, cases involving Black workers, Latino workers, women workers, disabled Americans, cleared from the docket because this administration decided they no longer fit the definition of meritocracy. Let me bring this out of the legal weeds and into your living room, because maybe some of you just don't understand. When it comes to housing, okay? When it comes to housing, the Fair Housing Act uses disparate impact to fight modern redlining. Without it, a bank can deny mortgage application in majority Black neighborhoods using facially neutral criteria. Algorithmic credit scoring designed to suppress Black wealth accumulation. And you cannot sue unless you can prove they intended to discriminate. How hard is that? Without statistics, without the evidence. See, intent is almost impossible to prove, and they know that. The data now means nothing when it comes to employment. A company can require criminal background checks that screen out Black applicants at twice the rate because mass incarceration have devastated our communities for decades. And without disparate impact, you have no federal legal recourse unless a manager says the quiet part out loud. Oh, here's a stickler education, because public school systems can systematically underfund majority Black schools, load those schools with less experienced teachers, and run discipline pipelines that push Black children out of classrooms. And without disparate impact, none of that data is legally actionable unless you find a racist memo. In healthcare, and as I've been telling you guys for quite some time, read that A Medical Part-Time book. Very important that you guys understand this information. But hospitals in majority Black zip codes can receive less funding, offer few specialists, and produce measurably worse outcomes for Black patients. And without disparate impact liability, the statistics do not matter. Only intent matters. And systematic racism in this year is rarely written down. This is what the order does. It makes invisible algorithmic policy-based racism, the kind that does not require a hood or a slur. And I mean the KKK hood type, right? Legally untouchable. And I really want you guys to hold on to this. Every major civil rights victory of the last 50 years was built on disparate impact. The integration of corporate America after the 1964 Civil Rights Act, the opening of home ownership to Black families that built the Black middle class, diversification of policy departments and fire departments, equal access to credit, federal contracts reaching Black-owned businesses. None of that happened because institutions voluntarily decided to be fair. Oh, what a fair and equal America based on meritocracy would really look like. That's the question. Because it happened because the law held them accountable, even where the discrimination was invisible and structural and deniable. And now that accountability tool has been ripped out of the wall. The Brookings Institution calls this quietly resegregating the American workforce. The ACLU calls it removing a critical enforcement tool used for decades. The National Partnership for Women and Families says that the administration is weaponizing the EEOC to attack civil rights. And we know who that eventually attacks, because they said shit rolls downhill. But the White House calls it meritocracy. Meritocracy. What is meritocracy? Meritocracy, based upon your merit, your academic achievement and accolades. Meritocracy in America? It's probably just a cool word for nepotism.
Period.
But meritocracy, as employed by this administration, means we will pretend the playing field is level when it's never been level, ladies and gentlemen, and then blame us for not performing as if it were. This is not a philosophy. This is cruelty dressed in the language of fairness. I'm not here to just bring you bad news. I'm here to give you power. But first, we need to understand what meritocracy really is, because I don't know if people really know what it is. Because some people like to believe, because people keep stating it over and over and over and over again. Because some people will state that if you tell a lie long enough, and you see the people who are telling the lie, believe it or not, that lie becomes true for a lot of people, depending on the influence and from the person that it comes from. So let me give you context. Black American inventors have fundamentally shaped modern life, creating extensive technology ranging from the 3-light traffic signal and home security systems to critical components in cell phones and GPS. When it comes to engineering technology, and believe me when I tell you this, ladies and gentlemen, this is not an all-inclusive list. We have a multitude of different apparatuses and inventions and machines in STEM, science, technology, engineering, and math that we have invented, okay, that came upon our own intellectual property. But they will like to shun, they will like to shadow, they will like to cast a veil, hide behind the blanket of some of the achievements that we've made, but they can't say that we have low IQ if they show these things. This is why they're eradicating Black history. Black history is just not Martin Luther King Jr. preaching "I have a dream" speech. Black intelligence is not showing what Malcolm X did at the Nation of Islam. None of these things equate to Black excellence. None of these things equate to meritocracy. What this equates to is intelligence. And let me guys tell you this, all races are dumb. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, you name it. All races are intelligent. Black, white, Asian, Hispanic, Native American, and otherwise. So I'm tired of the low IQ arguments. I'm tired of you need to stop asking for reparations and DEI and affirmative action. You guys got all what you gonna get. That's the problem.
Yes, definitely.
That's the problem. They hide behind all these trope racial slur words and they cover them up under a pile of absolutely meritocracy bullshit, okay? And don't excuse my language because I'm here to give you power, not excuses.
Thank y'all for coming. White power!
Now, the 3-light traffic light by our brother Garrett Morgan, the electric microphone by James West, automatic elevator doors, home security system by Marion Van Britton Brown. These are inventions that we have created. Refrigerated truck, the PC color monitor and the gigahertz chip, GPS mathematical model, fiber optics and caller ID research, orbital trajectories, blood banks, laser cataract surgery, agriculture thermometry, super soaker, improving ironing board, carbon filament. These are just some of the very few inventions that Black Americans have created and invented. Meritocracy? Low IQ?
How embarrassing.
I'm just asking for a friend because maybe a lot of people don't understand this. Because none of these pieces that I do are meant to be racist, but it's to expose some of the lies that people have that are racist, that are bigots, that are discriminatory in nature. Because I told you, the best races in these United States of America wears a suit and tie. Boy, you crazy. Now, I want you guys to know your rights because believe it or not, we still have some because some states like California, New York, Massachusetts, Illinois, Washington maintain their own disparate impact protections under the state law. So if you face housing or employment discrimination, contact your state civil rights agency in addition to the federal EEOC. Document absolute everything. In the absence of federal disparate impact protection, pattern evidence becomes critical. Track promotions, demand written reasoning on loan denials. If your school disciplines your child, document every incident. Paper trails fuel lawsuit. We cannot be lazy on this. We cannot let things forego. We cannot ignore things. We can't ignore nothing.
Goddamn right.
We have to write it all down, record it all down. Take out your audio recording app, take out your camera, whatever it may be. And also we need to support the organizations fighting in the court, the ACLU, the NAACP, if that's a viable chapter that's actually doing something, the Legal Defense Fund, the National Fair Housing Allowance, and the National Employment Law Project are already mounting legal challenges to this executive order. And donate to some of these organizations where you see impact. Share it, amplify it, vote in the 2026 midterms, Every single one, because the House Judiciary Committee oversees the DOJ. The Senate confirms EEOC commissioners. Who controls these bodies in January of 2027 that determines whether this order survives or gets challenged legislatively? Talk about this everywhere, at the barbershop, at the cookout, at the church, at the PTA meeting. The biggest weapon they have is your belief that civil rights law is too complicated to understand. It is not.
Yeah.
They said your rights are too expensive to maintain. And I'm going to tell you, then we're going to cost you something at the ballot box. See, if anything or any power that Black Americans have in this country is still the voting power. And I really want you guys to go to ourvoicevote.org and check out my website, which is totally free. You can donate if you want. If not, don't worry about it. But get the information. Get empowered by the information to actually take action. Because on April 23rd of this year, as I told you, this is a date that Black America should mark on the wall next to every other date that we remember, because the day that the federal government officially decided systematic racism is not worth fighting for anymore, not because it does not exist, but because fighting it is not proper for those in power. 50 years of civil rights law gone at a stroke of a pen, while the news cycle chased something else. But you won't find it because you are watching this right here, right now, because I'm one of the few people who are going to do the digging and tell you the truth. And knowledge, believe it or not, ladies and gentlemen, is the beginning of power. And they never want you to be knowledgeable, and they never want you to have power. That's why they are extrapolating the word slave and replacing with labor out of the books. This is why they're trying to stop Black history. This is why they're trying to skip over certain months and details. So when I tell you that this is not about combing one particular race like white people, because it's not all white people. It's the racist white people. It's the bigoted white people. It's the discriminatory white people. And the most powerful white people of them all. They'll shake your hand. They'll give you a kiss on the cheek. They'll even give you a hug and a slap on the ass and say, "That a boy." And still put you out of work and still try to lock your Black ass up.